All right. We are now on chapter 19 of Who. If you didn't listen yesterday, you're not caught up to chapter 19, you need to take today as a catch-up day because I'm giving it to you. There's no other reading work except for Hoot. There will be more reading work tomorrow, but some of you, I think, need a day or so to catch up. So I'm giving you that time today. So please use it wisely. And if you're all caught up, then you just have a little bit less work today. So that's pretty cool. It's a pretty light day on work. So for those of you that are all caught up, excellent. Those of you that are a little behind, you have, a little less today to try to catch you up, but tomorrow is going to be a good amount. So, be ready for that. All right, let me share my screen. We are on chapter 19. We are really close to the end. Let me even check. Yeah, we only have like 2 chapters left, or 3. Okay, sorry. Okay, chapter 19. Let me also move my face. I'll try not to mute myself. I think that's what happened the other day when it didn't work. I'm worried about the owls, Officer Delinko told Curly. What owls? Darkness had fallen on the construction site and swallows were swooping back and forth, chasing mosquitoes. Tomorrow was the big day. Come on, I saw them with my own eyes, the patrolman said. Isn't there a way to, move them someplace safe? Curly said, Want my advice? Don't think about it. Put it out of your mind. It's what I do. I can't. That's the trouble. Curly jerked a thumb toward the trailer. You want to take a break? I rented the new Jackie Chan. Officer Delinko couldn't understand how the foreman could be so casual about burying the owl dens. He wondered if it was just a macho act. Did you tell them the birds were out here? He asked. Tell who? The Pancake Company. Maybe they don't know. Curly snorted. You kidding me? They know everything, he said. Look, it ain't our problem. Even if we wanted to, there's nothing we could do. Curly went off to his trailer while Officer Delinko resumed patrolling the grounds. Whenever he passed a burrow, he shined his flashlight inside, but he saw no owls. He hoped the birds had already sensed that something awful was about to happen and had flown away, though it seemed improbable. Shortly after midnight, Officer Delinko heard Curly come out with a shout his name. The foreman claimed he'd been awakened by a noise like someone climbing the fence. With his gun drawn, the policeman searched the area thoroughly. He checked the roof of the trailer and underneath it, too. All he found was a line of possum tracks in the sand. Sounded way bigger than a possum, Curly said grumpily. Later, as Officer Delinko was retrieving his 3rd thermos of coffee from the squad car, he thought he saw a series of small white flashes at the other end of the property. It reminded him of the bright popping he'd seen at late-night car accidents while the police department's photographer was snapping pictures. But when Officer Delinko ran to where he'd seen the flashes, he found nothing out of the ordinary. It must have been a burst of heat lightning, he thought, reflecting off the low clouds. The rest of the night passed uneventfully. The patrolman stayed wide awake. At breakfast, Roy asked his mother if he could leave school during lunch. He figured she'd be more likely than his father to say yes, but she surprised him. I don't know if that's such a good idea for you to go to the Mother Paula's groundbreaking. But, Mom, let's see what your dad thinks. Oh well, thought Roy, that'll be the end of that. As soon as Mr. Eberhart sat down at the table, Mrs. Eberhart informed him of Roy's request. Sure, why not? Mr. Eberhart said. I'll write him a note. Roy's jaw hung open. He had expected the opposite reaction from his father. But you've got to promise to behave, Mr. Eberhart said, no matter how ticked off you get. I promise, Dad. Later, his father put Roy's bicycle in the trunk of his car and drove Roy to Trace Middle. As he dropped him off in the front of the school, Mr. Eberhart asked, Think your friend will be at the ceremony today, Beatrice's stepbrother? Probably, Roy said. Pretty risky. I know, Dad. I tried to tell him. I know. You be careful, Mr. Eberhart said firmly, and be smart. Yes, sir. Beatrice Leap was waiting outside Roy's homeroom. Her curly hair was damp as if she'd just gotten out of the shower. Well, she said, I got a note. How about you? Beatrice displayed a crumpled paper napkin that had been scrawled upon in red ink. I woke up my old man to ask him. He was so far out of it, he would have signed anything, she said. I would have written myself a check, or I should have written myself a check for $1,000. So I guess we'll be all set for noon, Roy said. He lowered his voice. I went to see your brother. He threw me out of the truck. Beatrice shrugged. What can I say? Sometimes he's impossible. She fished in her purse and came out with the camera belonging to Roy's mother. He dropped this off at the house late last night, after Lana and Dad went to bed. He says he got the pictures you wanted. I tried to take a look, but I couldn't figure out how to work the darn thing. Wordlessly, Roy grabbed the camera and stashed it in his locker. Keep your fingers crossed, Beatrice said, before melting into the stream of students and disappearing down the hall. Roy spent the rest of the morning lost in excited distraction, wondering if his plan might actually work. At 10:45 a.m., a black stretch limousine pulled up to the empty lot at Woodbury and East Oriole. The driver got out and opened one of the doors. Nothing happened for several moments, and then a tall man with wavy silver hair emerged, squinting into the sun. He wore pressed white trousers and a dark blue blazer with an emblem on the breast pocket. The man glanced around impatiently behind enormous tinted sunglasses. Crisply, he snapped his fingers at Officer David Delinco, who was unlocking his squad car. The patrolman failed to notice he was being summoned. He was knocking off work after 14 straight hours at the construction site. Curly had gone home to shower and shave, so Officer Delinco had stayed to keep an eye on the earth-moving machines, which had been refitted with new seats. Now that the foreman had returned, dressed up in a coat and tie of all things, the policeman was leaving the premises. He had no desire to hang around for the groundbreaking nonsense. Officer, the silver-haired man beckoned insistently. Yo, officer, over here. Officer Delinco approached the limousine and asked what was wrong. The man introduced himself as Chuck E. Muckle, a vice president of something or other for Mother Paula's All-American Pancake Houses Incorporated. In a confidential tone, he added, We need some discreet assistance here. Well, I'm off duty, Officer Delinco told him, but I'd be glad to call for another unit. He was so exhausted from lack of sleep that he had barely had enough energy to carry on the conversation. Do you happen to know who's sitting in this car? Chuck Muckle asked, nodding toward the limo. No, sir. Miss Kimberly Lou Dixon. That's nice, said Officer Delinco blankly. The Kimberly Lou Dixon. Well, what do you know? Chuck Muckle thrust his ruddy face closer. You've got no idea who I'm talking about, do you, officer? Not a clue, sir. Never heard of the lady. The company vice president rolled his eyes and proceeded to explain who Kimberly Lou Dixon was and why she traveled all the way from Beverly Hills, California to Coconut Cove, Florida. And right this minute, Chuck Muckle said, she rather urgently needs a powder room. A powder room, Officer Delinco repeated quizzically. A place to powder her nose, to freshen up, Chuck Muckle erupted in exasperation. Is this really such a difficult concept to grasp, officer? Let me try to put this in a language you can understand. She needs a potty, okay? Gotcha, Officer Delinco gestured towards Curly's trailer. Follow me. When Kimberly Lou Dixon got out of the limousine, Officer Delinco was startled by how young she looked compared with the wrinkled old granny she played on the TV commercials. Kimberly Lou had bright green eyes and rich auburn hair and smooth, milky skin. A lovely and cultured woman, Officer Delinco thought. Then she opened her mouth. I got a tinkle, she announced in a sandpaper voice. Lead the way, hotshot. The actress carried a leather tote bag over one shoulder, and she wore high heels, a black skirt, and pale, silky blouse. Curly was dumbstruck when he opened the door of the trailer. Without a word, Kimberly Lou Dixon stepped past him and made her way to the bathroom. Can I change in here? She asked in a husky voice. Change what? You look pretty darn good the way you are. Change into her Mother Paula's costume, Officer Delinco interjected. She's with some guy. He wants to know if she can use your trailer as a dressing room. Any time, Curly said with a dreamy smile. A man's silhouette filled the doorway, followed by a gust of oily cologne. Why, you must be the one and only Leroy Brannett, growled a familiar, sarcastic tone. Curly cringed. Officer Delinco stepped out of the way and said, This gentleman is from the Pancake House Company. I figured, said Curly. He held out his right hand to Chuck Muckle, who stared at it as if it were a dead mudfish. Please tell me, Mr. Brannett, that you have no bad news that would spoil this lovely tropical morning. Tell me everything's hunky-dory here in Coconut Cove. Yes, sir, Curly said. We stayed the last 2 nights on the property, me and the policeman here, and it's been peaceful as a church house, ain't it? That right, David? Right-o, Officer Delinko said. Chuck Muckle whipped off his shades and eyed the patrolman dubiously. You wouldn't happen to be the same crackerjack lawman who fell asleep in his car while a vandal trashed our survey stakes, would you? As curious as Officer Delinko was to see Kimberly Lou Dixon dressed up as Mother Paula, he now wished that he were somewhere far, far away. The same genius, Mr. Munkle went on, whose careless sleep habits resulted in a newspaper article that unfairly smeared the good name and reputation of Mother Paula, was that you? Yeah, that would be him, Curly said. Officer Delinko shot the foreman a dirty look before addressing Mr. Muckle. I'm really sorry about all that, sir, the patrolman said, thinking. Sorrier for me than for you. It's rather astounding that you still have a job, Chuck Muckle remarked. Your police chief must have a charitable heart. Either that or he's desperate for warm bodies. Curly finally came up with something positive to contribute. Officer Delinko was the one who helped me catch that burglar the other night. It was a shameless exaggeration of Curly's role in the capture of Dana Matherson, and Officer Delinko was about to set the record straight when Kimberly Lou Dixon came rocketing out of the bathroom. You've got, like, a major roach situation in there, she exclaimed. They ain't roaches, they're crickets, Curly said. I don't know where the heck they all came from. He elbowed his way past Officer Delinko and Chuck Muckle and introduced himself to the actress. I'm the supervising engineer on this project, Miss Dixon, and I just want you to know that I've seen all your movies. All 2 of them, you mean? Kimberly Lou Dixon patted his shiny scalp. That's all right, Mr. Brannett. It's still a darling thing for you to say. Hey, I can't wait for your new one, too, Mutant Invaders from Saturn 11. I really go for that sci-fi stuff. Jupiter 7, Chuck Muckle cut in. It's called Mutant Invaders from Jupiter 7. Whatever, Curly gushed. You're gonna make a fantastic grasshopper queen. Yeah, I'm already writing my Oscar speech, the actress glanced at her diamond-studded wristwatch. Listen, I better hurry up and start turning myself into adorable old Mother Paula. Can one of you sweethearts please fetch my suitcase out of the limo? And that is the whole chapter. Pretty short one today. Let's see. Question-wise, I would like you to tell me. Let me go back and just look really quick. Okay, first question I want you to tell me, how does it appear to you Officer Delinko feels about the owl situation? Number 2, I would like you to tell me where is Beatrice's note written? And then what did she wish she would have had signed? So that's kind of 2 questions. So what does Beatrice have her note written on? And then what did she wish she would have gotten signed? And then I think the last one is going to be what do you think is going to happen? We're going to make a prediction. What do you think is going to happen in chapter 20? So we've got Roy and Beatrice leaving school. They have a camera from Mullet Fingers. They said he got pictures. We have Mother Paula, Chuck Muckle, Officer Delinko, Curly all at the site at about almost 11 in the morning. What do you think's happening in chapter 20? And that's all.